5, 6, 7, I'd say over the last 2 weeks, some,
Right.
but not. You know, it's actually one reason I tried to do some social media presence. I found that it's not that I don't want calls, but it kind of gives people a central place for information, you know. But no, I think I from my head, just one negative and a lot of positive.
I'd say same. You're one.
You don't have to fully decide. Yeah, I need to decide.
Can I arm wrestle you? Because I would really like that.
You know, I'll tell you the thing that's probably most the biggest deal in it is how busy we've been. That's probably the thing I'm weighing the most, and how just how the environment's shifting a little bit with that. But no, I need to make a decision on that, but I haven't made a move. Well, thank you. I realize, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know who's.
I suppose after the holidays it'll become a big
Who else?
Yeah, sure.
Jim.
Yeah.
James.
Yeah. Or no? Yeah.
I think so.
I'm Mark.
Yeah. Because Brad came on sometimes.
It's almost like a wholesale change.
Yeah. Full turnover.
Usually happens that way or not.
No, I think that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
No, I'm here.
What's Terry doing?
She's doing pretty good.
Is she?
Yeah.
Well, over there.
She'll be pretty ready.
Well, I knew she was.
Yeah. She's having a hard time. Trying to stay busy. Everybody's gone now. At least.
Just waiting for Jared to get sat down here.
Although then you don't have all of this crap. So.
Okay, everyone, welcome to the North Platte City Council meeting, December 7th, 2021. It is 5:30 p.m. We are here in the City Council chambers. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we have an invocation by Reverend Bob Deardoff, please.
With the permission of Mayor Kelleher, at first I would like to lead us in a moment of silence in commemoration for those servicemen and women who lost their lives on December 7th, 80 years ago in service to our country, and all those who served honorably afterwards, and some gave their full measure of devotion to give us the freedoms we enjoy in this land. We thank you, God, for their service. Heavenly Father, this evening we ask your hand of wisdom, your hand of insight, of civility and unity upon our community as great decisions are made. We know that you are the giver of all good things, and that you want what is best for us. So you sent us the very best of all, your Son Jesus, whose Christmas birth we soon celebrate. We ask that you would give us this day then what you know is best for us, and lead us in recognizing that we may have differences of opinions, but we are all your children, and you love us and care for us all very deeply. We thank you for the service of those who work in our community in the dangerous roles of law enforcement and first response. We thank you for the willing service of all city employees and of those who are elected to lead our community. We thank you for diligent and prosperous citizens, and we ask your continued blessing, not because we deserve it, but because you are such a good and gracious God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Roll call, please.
Isley?
Here.
Tryon?
Here.
Foltz?
Here.
Lucas?
Here.
Barrett?
Here.
Carmen?
Here.
Rieger?
Here.
Woods?
Here.
Thank you. Open Meetings Act. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act of Nebraska is posted on the wall at the back of the council chambers. Meeting procedure. The public may address specific agenda items at the pleasure of the mayor. If recognized by the mayor, please identify yourself by stating your name and address. Please address the council through the mayor and limit your remarks to approximately 3 minutes, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. We respect our city employees and request that any complaints or criticisms of employees not be aired in a public meeting. Concerns about employees should be brought to the attention of the city administrator or mayor. Individuals in violation will be declared out of order. Thank you. We're doing something a little different with the agenda, trying something a little bit innovative. Some of you may notice up there in the corner, there is a large QR code on the wall there, and we've got it out in the hallway. If you'd like a copy of the agenda, if you didn't get one in paper, you can snap a picture of that with your phone, and it will take you to a digital copy of the agenda. I'll also give you another reason to look at your phone during the meeting if you're so inclined. Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. All matters under consent agenda are considered by the city council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any city council member may, however, remove an item from consent by request. Item number 1, approve minutes of the November 16, 2021 meeting. Item number 2, place on file treasurer's report for October 2021. Item number 3, approve the application by Aiden Enterprises LLC for a special designated license on January 22nd, 2022 from 4 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. at the D&N Event Center, 501 East Walker Road for a wedding reception. Item number 4, send the application of Creativity Unlimited Arts Council DBA Prairie Arts Center for a catering liquor license located at 416 North Jeffers Street at to the Nebraska Liquor Control Commission with no recommendation. Number 5, approve the reappointment of Lena Hughes to the Tree Board. Number 6, authorize the mayor to execute a purchase agreement for a 2022 Freightliner dump truck for the electric department with Nebraska Truck Center. Item number 7, authorize the mayor to sign the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Grant Application request for $45,260 and required certified assurances. Item number 8, authorize the mayor to sign agreements with Voya and Professional Financial Advisors, LLC, to provide retirement services to the city of North Platte.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Motion Reeker, second Carmen. Calling the question, please vote on the consent agenda. Consent agenda is approved, or is passed. Regular agenda. Item number 9, authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents regarding consulting services with JK Consulting for the electric department.
I move to authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents regarding consulting services with JK Consulting for the electric department.
Second.
Motion Garrick, second Reeker. Any discussion on item number 9? Calling the question, please vote on item number 9. Item number 9 is passed. Item number 10, authorize the mayor to execute the agreement for services between the City of North Platte and Arete Design Group.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we authorize the mayor to execute the agreement for services between the city of North Platte and Arete Design Group.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Nisley. Any questions on, or excuse me, any discussion on number 10?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Mr. Lucas, you have the floor.
Yeah, I had asked Mr. Kibben some questions earlier today that I think would be good for some discussion. I think the gist of my question was that, in my experience, through work and working with customers in my profession, jobs of this nature, oftentimes you can go out to the local, regional area contractors and they can provide proposals and may or may not have to get an engineer involved depending on the scope of the job. And so I'm curious about, have we reached out to contractors on this? Is this design step really necessary? Kind of what the pros and cons of that might be, and if you don't mind going through that a little bit for us.
You bet. Mayor Keller, Councilman Lucas, we did not reach out to contractors. Contractors aren't design firms, and we have roofs failing here at City Hall. The roof is failing miserably at the library, and we're also having roofing challenges at the recreation center. I think, as I understand it, the roof designs were completed by contractors in the past. What we're trying to do is alleviate those concerns when contractors, unfortunately, when they're put in a position to bid a project and be responsible for the design, there is an opportunity for them to cut corners and put in an inferior product. I'm not suggesting that that has been the case, but clearly our roofs are failing, and in my conversation with Dave Hahn, are starting to fail at the 75 to 80% of their lifespan. So what we're proposing with the REIT Design Group is a design firm that specializes in roof design. I've worked with them in the past on projects. They've done over 1 million square feet under the purview of my former employer. And our roofs are warranted for 30 years and are installed very well. Additionally, the type of roof, I committed to one of the councilmen that we have specified that they will design a PVC roof, which is the Cadillac of roofing. The question may be whether or not we want a Cadillac roof on some of our structures, and so I've committed to asking a RET Design Group to consider other options for the roofing. However, I do believe that a 30-year PVC roof membrane is the Cadillac and is the right decision for the city. Otherwise, I wouldn't have suggested moving forward with this consultant.
Go ahead.
And thank you for that, Matt. And you and I talked a little bit yesterday. Couple of things like we talked about. Yeah, I don't know if you want to put a Cadillac on a, put a brand new engine and tires on a 72 Ford pickup truck. At some point, you got to kind of figure out where we're at. And you asked, you told me that we'll take a look at other designs. And the other thing, we'll look at any insurance proceeds or anything that can come off of this to see what's out there and see what we can go for a good replacement. I wasn't really in favor of this yesterday. As I thought through it more and looking at the scope of what this group will do, I think it could aid us and aid the city on this project and possibly in future projects, depending on how this one goes for us. So thanks.
Mr. Reeker.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I totally agree with Mr. Kibben's assessment as far as having a professional design the roofs. They don't have any skin in the game, so to speak, so they can put together a protocol that can be followed. And I presume then, once this protocol is determined, that this will be taken out to bid for contractors to install the roof.
Mayor Keller, Councilman Reeker, that is correct. This is design only. After the design, which includes plans and specifications and a preliminary estimate for us, we will publicly advertise and bid the replacement of the roof.
So the reality in that scenario that you described is everybody's going to be bidding on the same set of plans and specifications. So we're going to know up front what we're buying. Now it's just a matter of determining which contractor we want to use to put it down. And with your background, and I think we'll probably have some oversight from the designing group as far as the installation. Is that correct?
Mayor Keller, Councilman Reeker, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Lucas?
Yeah, one final comment. With all due respect, I can appreciate where you guys are at. I still feel like that's a solution for a larger project than the roofs that we have in question. I think the majority of people who privately own buildings of this size would probably gain proposals from contractors, save the design fees, and then assess it upon receipt of those. And so I'm against spending the money on this without going out for proposals first, but I certainly appreciate where you guys are coming from. I just don't think these buildings of this size are that unique for normal type roofing jobs.
Anyone else have any thoughts or questions on this one? This is Tryon.
This is just a question, but this building is all flat roof, right?
Mayor Keller, Councilwoman Tryon, that is correct.
And those can be a challenge.
That is correct.
So is it possible to put a pitch roof up here? Is that,
No.
no, okay. No. Thought I'd try.
Not and save money anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Other comments on number 10? Calling the question on number 10, then, please vote. Number 10 passes. Moving on to number 11. Approve bid with Paulson Inc. of Cozad in the amount of $1,484,565.03 for Street Improvement District Number 329 in Lakeview Boulevard from the intersection of West A Street to the intersection of West Front Street, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the bid and authorize the mayor to sign the contract for Street Improvement District Number 329 as presented in the council materials.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Lucas. Any questions on number 11? Seeing none, calling the question on number 11. Number 11 has passed. Number 12, accept and authorize the mayor to sign renewal of the city maintenance agreement number 20 with the Nebraska Department of Roads.
Mr. Mayor, I move to have the council accept and authorize the mayor to sign renewal of the city maintenance agreement number 20 with the Nebraska Department of Roads.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Lucas. Any questions or discussion on number 12? Calling the question, please vote. Number 12 passes. Number 13, second reading and action on ordinance number 4078, realigning council boards as required by Nebraska State Statute 32-533, paragraph 2.
Mr. Mayor, I move to waive the remaining required readings on ordinance number 4078.
Second.
I think I misread that.
Would you like to withdraw your original motion there and start over?
I think it would do. Like to
Okay.
do that.
Motion withdrawn.
I would move to adopt ordinance number 4078 regarding ward boundary changes pursuant to Nebraska State Statute 32-533 on second reading.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Nisley.
Mayor Keller, would you like me to read the ordinance?
Yes, please read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of North Platte, Lincoln County, Nebraska, amending existing ward boundaries in the city of North Platte, Nebraska, reflecting population change as reported in the official 2020 U.S. Census, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for the effective date and publication in pamphlet form.
Thank you. Any discussion on number 13? Seeing none, calling the question on number 13. Number 13 passes. Okay. Well, here it is, everyone. A few ground rules. As I mentioned during the last council meeting, I will not be holding people to a 3-minute time limit. I feel like this is very important for our community, so we may be here for a while, but boy, are we going to talk about this. And maybe we won't, who knows? I understand there are some bets out there, so. Bless you if you win. They always leave me out of the pool for some reason. Anyway. I am, however, going to record how long people talk, just mostly as a study, because we're trying to see where we really should set this. So I am going to be recording you, but I'm not going to cut you off because of time. However, in the interest of expediency, when people start to repeat themselves or their logic begins to falter or something like that, I'm going to say, please conclude your thoughts within the next couple minutes. At that point, I will start to pay attention to the time and give you about 2 minutes to finish. So please try to conclude your thoughts in a logical manner, say your piece, but I will not be timing you during your speaking. At the beginning of this public meeting, I'm going to ask a few people to come up and present the project, primarily Mr. Briggs and Mr. Pearson. Let's be honest, we all know why we're here. So please, guys, hit the high points, okay? And then, once those two presentations are done, we will begin 3 hours of discussion, should it need to take that long. At the end of 3 hours, after these, Mr. Briggs and Mr. Pearson have spoken, I will ask if anyone has anything new, any new facts to present. And if you do, you're certainly welcome to present, but I would ask you, if you do want to speak, make sure, make sure you speak to Dawn Miller, who's back there in the gray suit and blonde hair. Raise your hand, Dawn, so everybody can see you, okay? She will gladly write your name on the card and get it to me, and I will call on who is to speak and who is on deck. And so that will make the process a bit more efficient. Mr. Jacobson.
I do have one question. I guess it's my understanding that as chair of the CRA, I would present the resolution as the CRA, as we've done in every previous CRA project.
Oh.
So it was my understanding that I would be the first.
That's fine. We'll put you ahead of Mr. Briggs then. So, okay, thank you. Okay, everybody understand the ground rules? At some point, we will probably take a break if we really do approach 3 hours here, just so we're all on the same page. If you're out in the hallway or in the conference room, please listen for your name to be called. Mr. Reeves, do we have people other than city employees in the hallway? No? Okay. Please let me know if there are out there, okay? And tell them about Dawn if they'd like to speak, please. Thank you. That being said, we are going to begin the public hearing as filed by this document as filed in the city clerk's office originally, okay? I want to make that clear. That needs to be in the minutes, Renee, as filed, okay? And that will become more apparent as to why I'm doing it that way once we get to the debate in the city council meeting. But just a little bit of language clarification, that's all. Okay. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Mike Jacobson, 3020 West Leota Street, North Platte, Nebraska. I am chairman of the North Platte Redevelopment Authority, and I'm here tonight to present to you the recommendation for the approval of the redevelopment project of the city of North Platte and the cost-benefit analysis relating to Sustainable Beef LLC. This project started a little over a year ago when the organizers met with me in my office to talk about their plan. Originally, the plan was much smaller. It was a much smaller project. They weren't going to be doing rendering. They weren't going to be doing meat cutting. They came back about a month later and said, we've got to change the plan. We're going to expand that. And of course, each time you expand it, you got more employees. This thing continues to expand. I had two questions for him at the time. The two questions were, What are you going to do for odor control? And how are you going to handle the worker shortage and gather the workers that you need if you need 875 workers? Those were the two concerns that I had out of the gate. Those were the two concerns that I focused on through the entire process. Those were the concerns that the CRA primarily focused themselves on as we went through the project. I can tell you this is an incredible opportunity for North Platte. I think this would be just what North Platte needs to bring this project if we can do it correctly. And that was our focus. As we went through the process, we did have our CRA meeting and we reviewed the plan, but prior to do that, we did meet privately with the developers to understand more details about their project. We felt it was good to do it offline, so only 2 CRA members were there, so we didn't have a public meeting. And we asked them to share, in many cases, some confidential information and other information that was public information for us to better understand what their plan was. I can tell you that the project is a very ambitious project, as something like this would be. And through this process, they needed to secure 2 things. They needed to not only get the cattle lined up, which my understanding is that they've been successful in doing, but they've also had to go out and raise equity capital. And they've had a couple of plans in terms of how to raise that capital. They're still in the middle of the capital raise. They're confident that they can raise the capital, and I hope that they can, but it hasn't been raised yet, so we still don't know who the actual owner is going to ultimately be. Every expectation we had in visiting with their capital advisor is that this will be majority owned and predominantly majority owned by an out-of-state company. And so with that in mind, we wanted to keep in mind what the risks were to the city, knowing that this would not necessarily be just a local group of people involved in owning it long-term and in managing it. It's a huge win no matter who owns it, but we need to be advised of that and be aware of that as we move along the way. I'm confident that they will have a lot of producers who will have ownership in it, but the majority and the control is likely going to be with perhaps a Fortune 500 company. We also don't know what ownership changes could occur down the road, and that's why putting together a plan that seems to meet the requirements to protect the city was important. So we had before we had our CRA meeting to work on the redevelopment plan, part of our issue with odor control was to send a group of people and fly a group of people out to Kuna, Idaho to review a plant that's going to be very similar to the plant that they propose to build here. The final design of the plant is not done yet, but when it is, it will likely look very similar to that, and they plan to use similar odor control methods to control odor. The group that did attend the Kuna, Idaho trip came back feeling good about the odor. They said there was some odor, but it wasn't a problem. By and large, all the comments were good, and we felt very good about that trip. We then moved to our CRA meeting to adopt the resolution. As part of that, when we adopted the plan, and now I want to be clear, the plan, which is before you, is just that, it's a plan, okay? The way the process works is the CRA reviews the plan and has a public meeting. Not a public hearing, but a public meeting. We took public comment from those who attended that meeting. We then adopted the plan that we had drafted and forwarded it to the Planning Commission. Once that reached the Planning Commission, they then had advertised for, as are required through by statute, had a public hearing. And they had a public hearing on the plan that we submitted to them. Significant public comment. As you might imagine, public comment centered on odor control. It's centered on access, a number of other issues that will get handled through permitting and through the final phases of what needs to get done with the plant. And then from there, it came back to the CRA to where we developed this resolution, submitted it to the City Council, where it now is the City Council's responsibility to determine if they want to approve this particular plan. If you approve a plan going forward to do this project, it will ultimately return back to the CRA after at least 30 days have passed, and then we will work with the developer and negotiate the redevelopment contract. The contract will include the TIF bond, and it will also include other measures that we outlined in the plan and other measures that we may introduce as part of that process once we know who the owners are, once we know more about the final design and know what we need to do to move forward. So that's the process. I'm going to point one thing out to you in what's been provided to you in the redevelopment plan that was approved by the CRA and that was approved by the redevelopment or by the Planning Commission through their public meeting and public hearing is on page 4 of the redevelopment plan. Item 3, general environment. And as you look through that paragraph, the final sentence in that paragraph is the redevelopment project will provide odor mitigation as per the equipment installation at the facility. Further, the redevelopment project will be subject to odor control ordinances adopted by the City of North Platte and regulations of the Nebraska Department of Environmental and Energy or U.S. Department of Environmental Protection. We are not saying that there are any ordinances here. We're not requiring any ordinances. We're just simply saying that in this plan that we're anticipating there will be ordinances, but I can tell you that there will be odor control mitigation included in the final redevelopment contract. And so that's why this is in here, because that was one of our primary concerns. We believe it to be material to the plan, and that's why we included it in the plan. It didn't have to be in the plan, but I'm telling you that's what we plan to have in the contract, something to that extent, after we have an opportunity to sit down in good faith with the owners to discuss what can we do to make sure that we have protection for everyone. One thing we look at is that the plan right now is this plant's being designed for 1,500 head a day. And they plan to run one shift. And the limitations that they're going to have is that they're planning to be able to cool the carcasses and hang the carcasses for 48 hours. And so the cooling space is going to limit their production if they want to cool them all on site. Now, they will be building taller shackles. And why is that important? Because you can kill cows and do cow slaughter in a plant that's got taller shackles. Now, this plant's really going to be focused on premium beef, and I'm really glad to hear that, and they're going to be looking at some export markets, and I think it will be a great plant. But if this would change hands, or if there'd be a change along the way in terms of the economics, and there would be a higher volume run through that plant, then we could very easily outstrip the mitigation that would be put in initially for this plant. What's happened in Lexington over the years is they've had expansion and haven't kept up with odor mitigation. So whatever goes in the redevelopment contract is going to deal with those issues, okay? And it's important, I think, that it stay in the plan as we get to the finish line, but we will incorporate it into the redevelopment contract when we get to the finish line. So with that, I know you've got a lot of speakers. I'll step down. I'm guessing I'm over my 3 minutes. Maybe I'm over my 6 minutes. But
I'm not timing yet, so.
all right, that's good. So any questions for me? If not, Mr. Bacon's here to answer technical questions as well. And I'm going to turn it over to the project developers and just tell you again that as far as the CRA is concerned, we are fully behind the project. We appreciate the developers making the leap to bring it here to North Platte and look forward to working with them.
Thank you. Mr. Briggs? Please.
So good evening, Mayor and the council members. My name is David Briggs. I'm the CEO of Sustainable Beef. I live in Alliance, Nebraska, and had a nice drive down today in the nice sunshine, so good to be here. Most of what Mr. Jacobson just did a great job actually outlining our project and what we're really trying to get accomplished there. I'm not going to go through all that again. Early on in this process, I came down to, we really came up with a comment of 3 C's. I needed cattle, I needed a city, I need capital. Someone say something?
I think it was in the hallway. Go ahead.
I really have added 2 more C's. One of those is construction and one of those is commencement. And so I just kind of wanted to go through those five steps real quickly of where we're at in this process. The cattle supply, as Mr. Jacobson already indicated, is in very good shape. We have 23 signed contracts today. Those cattlemen can actually fill the plant if they need to today. We have plenty capacity there. we're in very good shape on the cattle. The cattle industry has really supported this program and this process very well. The city, I can't say enough good things about the city of North Platte, the officials, as well as the economic development people, as well as just the community in whole. We've had lots of positive comments from people, lots of, pats on the back, get this thing done. The school system supported us very, very well. I met with Mr. Hansen before we ever even made this public to get his input on if there was going to be a concern with the schools, and he's very supportive of this project. And so I think the city of North Platte is the second C on our list, and provided you give us approval tonight, that we'll check that one off. The third one is the capital. And again, Mr. Jacobson outlined that well. We are in the middle of our capital raise. That's going very, very well. We do expect that to come to fruition in the first quarter is our goal today. But that process has gone very, very well, both on the finance side as far as debt, senior debt, as well as the equity side of things. So that's going well, and that's the third C, which then leads us to construction. Of course, I can't do the construction until I get title of the land, which again, Mr. Jacobson outlined that very well and how that process works. We do envision about this time that all happens, that the capital stack will be done and we'll be able to start construction. The construction project is going to take 2 years. Is our forecast. We hope we can beat that, but we are scheduling a 2-year build-out. Schmeckley Brothers out of Fort Morgan has been selected as our general contractor, and we believe they are the premier builder for this type of this size and this type of project in the Midwest. This will be the 17th plant that they've built, and we just think that we're very happy that they're on our team to make that happen. And then the fourth thing, once construction done, is commencement. Of course, I heard this one time at a graduation. I always thought commencement meant you were done, but actually it's not. That means you're just starting. And so I talked about this a little bit at the CRA meeting. This is such a large project and a long time frame, and this isn't for the faint of heart to do these projects. We've worked on this now for about 1.5 years. If approved tonight and we get everything wrapped up in the next few months, we'll start the construction. We got 2 more years of building. And then we start commencement. And so we're going to have worked on this 3.5 to 4 years before we actually start. It'll probably take us about 6 months to a year to get to capacity. So long project, but the real trick in this is we came up with this slogan. We also started right people. We have the right people involved. We have the right cattlemen involved that had enough gumption to get this thing started and make it happen. We have the right construction company to make sure this thing happens correctly and is built well. And we have the right finance people that we're talking to make sure this thing is viable and will succeed for the future. That was one of my number one concerns when I started this project is I want the first owner to be successful, not the third. And that's definitely a good concern. When you're a startup, that's a huge concern. You start a project as big as, do you have enough working capital? Do you have enough wherewithal to make it happen? If we have the right people involved, this thing will happen. And so we're very happy about that. Right place. North Platte is definitely the right place to build this facility. We're right in the middle of the United States, right in the middle of cattle country, right in the middle where we feed cattle. I mean, we couldn't find a better place than to build it in North Platte, Nebraska. We're happy that the city of North Platte has stepped up and said they want this industry in their town. We think it'll be a great asset for the whole state of Nebraska as well as the Midwest, and I can't think of a better place to put it. And the third piece of our slogan, right people, right places, right time, is the time is right. Through COVID, it became very evident to the whole industry, to all the consumers in the world, to all of our politicians, that the food supply is an issue. In particular, the meat supply is an issue. We have such a short window of when the animals are processed to when the food is at your store that we need more capacity. We actually don't have enough shackle space today for the amount of cattle we are processing. We need some extra space. And also, we need for food security, we actually need some more players. So if one, like what happened with one of the big players when they had a cybersecurity scare, when that shuts down your whole business for a day or two, that impacts our nation. And that's actually a security issue for the country. And so the more players we have playing, if we have a few more players, that's actually good for the security of our country also. So right people, right place, right time. We think this is the right place to do it. And I appreciate your support for this project. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I also have a couple of professionals on the phone if you have any specific questions they need to answer.
Even if we don't have any right now, I'm certain that we will have some in the future. So we reserve the right to call you back.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pearson, please.
Mayor Kelleher, City Council members, Gary Pearson, President of the North Platte Area Chamber Development Corporation, 502 South Dewey. We are a combined Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation with approximately 600 business members. City and county are part of our partnership. Our organization started down this path 478 days ago when a small group of us were first introduced to the founding partners of a project that would become known as Sustainable Beef, inquiring about the possibility of locating in North Platte. Our board of directors went on record early on in this process to unanimously support the Sustainable Beef project locating in North Platte. Our belief and support of this project has continued to strengthen over time. The project has brought national attention to the efforts of the Sustainable Beef Group and its importance of this project, and this community got a lot of national publicity as well as someone who was thinking about embracing an opportunity long overdue. A talented, dedicated, and extremely knowledgeable group of founding partners, advisors, and contractors came together to make this happen. It needed a community that would embrace it. That's your decision tonight. It's also important to note that several statewide agriculture associations have went on record in support of this project, testifying at the Planning Commission 2 weeks ago. All of them would have probably been here again tonight, but it's the annual Nebraska Farm Bureau meeting today and tonight. It's their banquet in Kearney. Though I know at least one did skip the banquet just to be here tonight because he felt it was the importance of it. Those groups also included the Nebraska Department of Agriculture State Director Steve Wellman. In addition, Nebraska Department of Economic Development Executive Director Tony Goins sends a letter of support that has been distributed to you. The mayor may choose to read that later on. We are the capital of Sandhills cattle country, just as David alluded to, and Nebraska's ranching community. No economic development opportunity has ever made more sense for our region and for our community than this particular one. As I told the national news broadcast team a year ago, you can work on economic development for the next 50 years. You'll never, ever find a project that has the kind of economic impact and represents our economy and our people any better. Agriculture's been our backbone for 160 plus years and the one staple in our economy that's been a constant. To strengthen its presence and economic stability is the most common sense thing we can do. It's also the right thing to do. When a nationally well-respected and well-known economist, Ernie Goss, outlines the local economic impact at greater than $1 billion a year, it speaks volumes to the impact this will have for generations to come. The best-selling author who wrote the book, Making Numbers Count, says humans aren't built to understand numbers, so sometimes we have to translate. It's going to have $1 million impact. It's going to have $1 billion impact. Compare it to seconds. 1 million seconds is a little over 11 days. 1 billion seconds is 32 years. We must embrace the opportunity that will open the doors for so many other economic and community development projects that will follow. Let's admit it, our economy and population base has been consistent and stable, but also been very stagnant for going on 40 years now, dating back to 1980, when the population was only slightly higher than it is today. From the fourth largest community in Nebraska to ranking number 9 now, as we've watched our peer communities find ways to grow that we haven't. We have a chance to change things for the better. This will go down in history books as one of the most important decisions you'll ever make as a council member. Agriculture needs this to happen. Nebraska needs it, but more important than anything, our community, our region, and our ranching and farming neighbors need it to sustain their way of life into future generations. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for laying out the project. By the clock back there, it is now 6:12, if I can read it correctly. Which means we will go until approximately 9:12 with public comment if needed. I would request that you say your piece in one shot. Please don't come back to the microphone as I will be calling you on this. These notes. Again, if you're here and you want to speak and you haven't gotten or signed one of these cards, please see Dawn back there so that she can get the card up to me. What's that? course, it works better when I turn the microphone on. Thanks, Matt. Let me get done there. That was good. Okay. If you haven't signed up already, please see Dawn, and she will give me a card. So, okay. Mr. Pearson just spoke. Okay, first up, we have Chris Bruns, and on deck, we have Bruce Mindenhall.
For the record, my name is Chris Bruns, a Lincoln County Commissioner, among other things, and I live at 8515 West Foothill Road. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight and share my enthusiastic support of this project. As an elected official myself, wow, this is a big moment before us tonight. In my discussions, my many discussions and conversations that I've had with most of you one-on-one, I understand that you realize that as well. The decision before you here tonight, in conjunction with being very big, it's also very serious. It's a very serious decision. Literally, this decision has the ability to impact the direction that our community takes for generations. Whichever way the decision goes, that's the reality of what's in front of you tonight. A vote in favor of this catalyst project, and we see economic growth like we haven't seen in generations, population growth for the first meaningful time in nearly 4 decades, and over $1 billion of positive impact to our communities, not just North Platte, but our entire region, every single year. A vote against, well, we continue down a path of mediocrity or worse, a stagnant economy, a continued shrinking population, and little hope of getting a major industry or prospect thereof to look at us again for a very long time. In my testimony before the City Planning Commission, I highlighted other pros and cons, which I know many of you have watched already, and that this is a value-added agricultural product that is a catalyst for many, many great things to come for our area. Yes, you well know that this is who we are as a region. We are rooted in agriculture. This project is the merging of our #1 industry and an economy that is eager to be unleashed. My hope is that tonight we literally witness a paradigm shift occur before our very eyes. One that changes our reputation, whether it's warranted or not, that North Platte is a difficult place to do business, to instead become a far-reaching understanding that we as a community are open for business, that we are welcome to investment and large-scale projects that bring in hard-working people, that we want families to come into our communities and raise their children here, that we are encouraging opportunities for future generations, for our kids and people to come back home like I did, because this truly is the greatest place to live, work, and raise a family. You know, in my campaign, in my race for the legislature, I'm talking to people all across this region, and continually, I'm hearing from them that this is what they are wanting: opportunity. I'm a firm believer that economic opportunity is the most effective way to empower the people. We have a great group of local people who started this thing that want to provide that here. It is my hope that tonight you vote in support of this project, that we show them that we as a community are willing to be as good of partners as they're wanting to be with us, and that we allow them to move forward and empower our community in a positive way. Before I end my remarks here tonight, I'd like to also note for you all, because I've been a part of this process from the get-go. I've attended meeting after meeting and spoken to people, and we have had an amazing process that I am thoroughly impressed with. Every shareholder, every stakeholder has been cordial in their dialogue. Every element and decision-making body that has been involved in this has been thorough. They've been transparent. This organization, this project's leadership has gone above and beyond the standard norm to offer up a complete and excellent proposal for your consideration here tonight. Our press has been phenomenal in getting the story out there for the people to read about, and I thank them. I want to congratulate everybody that's been involved in this. It's been phenomenal to watch. And I also commend you as the elected officials who actually have the say in how this thing progresses. The weight's heavy, and I understand that. But the decision is worth commending. So with that, thank you for your time. Thank you again for the opportunity to share my thoughts, my support for this project, and thank you for your consideration of this very serious decision before you tonight.
Thank you. Bruce Mendenhall and Larry Golden is on deck.
Just want to,
Bruce, please tell us, we know who your name, but then tell us your address, please, too.
Bruce Mendenhall, owner of Business Telecommunication Systems, 1208 Bel Air. I want to thank, I'll keep my comments simple. Mr. Mayor, City Council, I want to thank you for the opportunity to allow us to voice our opinion on how we feel about this opportunity that is presented to the North Platte tonight. As a small business owner working in North Platte for the last 40 years, and as a business that strictly relies upon other businesses being profitable, I want to show my support for this project. Over the last 5 years, I've seen business owner with a less than optimistic view of the economy in North Platte. For me in business telecommunications, this is a great opportunity for growth. But I also understand it will increase competition for new sales, as well as other companies coming to bid, as well as quality employees to hire. But the good far outweighs the bad. City Councilman, you have the opportunity to make a major difference in the history of North Platte. Just as when the railroads came through and brought a little bad with the good, what would have North Platte been with no railroad? Just as we needed the railroad then and now, 20, 30, 40 years from now, we will need this beef plant. It is not the perfect solution for our needs, but it is the right choice now. I do feel sorry for the Golden family and any of those families that may be affected by this. But and I'm sure that they don't want it in their backyard. I wouldn't want it in my backyard either. But if that's what we judged every project coming to North Platte on, we would not have much of community here. I'm sure that there may be smell from the sewer lagoons now, and this might make it worse. But the state of politics in this country, this facility will be constantly monitored. From air to runoff to waste that gets dumped back into the rivers, the feds will be on them like stink on shit. Sorry, the pun. I kind of feel a little bit sorry for them because I guarantee the red tape and the garbage they're going to have to go through now and every year, it's just going to be mind-boggling. I can't even think about it. The dollars generated for North Platte from this facility, I can't even imagine those kind of numbers. It's just, you know, Gary Pearson said about time. I mean, it's still just, I just can't even assume it. And at the same point in time, I know for North Platte there's going to be some expenditures. There's going to be some infrastructure. There's going to be some roads. There's going to have to be some things done, not just out there, but in all over the community. It's going to have to be upgraded. But with that, I still strongly urge the city council to vote in favor of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Larry Golden, and we have State Senator Jeff Wassenberger on deck, please. Mr. Golden.
Larry Golden, 4803 East Golden Road. I'm kind of in the middle of this Golden Road issue and have been for quite a while. So I come to speak my piece, I guess. First of all, guys, cattlemen, I'm in favor of what you guys want to do. You need this. You really need this. I've been against the location because I'm an old duck hunter. And I watched the waterfowl go into this pond and leave, and we're going to bury that. I'm a conservationist also. You guys have kind of got the short end of the stick on the meatpacking industry. My biggest issue, and I know how this is going to turn out, and you guys, everybody here does too. My biggest issue at this time is safety in and out of Golden Road. My fear is the slaughterhouse is going to start at the entrance of Newberry and Golden Road if you don't rethink your planning. Put yourself in a seat of a cattle truck, and you're trying to turn in there, and you've got people coming, cars coming from every direction at you, including UPS drivers, FedEx drivers, cattle buyers and everything, trying to get down that road. And your answer is going to be, we're going to widen the road. Really? It's going to get interesting. This road is built on a slough. The slough, the only drainage this slough had, the road had, was through cattails, natural drainage. The slough is below the rest of the ground to my house. What are we going to do with that water? It's going to end up down to my lake the first rainstorm because you're going to do away with the bar pit ditches. This brings up another thing. You sand dealers knows what happens when you see a lake freeze over and you watch the snow go across the lake. Where does it end up? On the south side of the lake. Piles of it. I have been in a Caterpillar at my house or my gate at 8 o'clock in the morning plowing snow, and the county owned it at that time, the road, and we met in the middle at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, trying to push snow out of the way. And their plan is to eliminate the bar pits. Where are they going to put the snow? And who's going to maintain it? How about a holiday? We get a snowstorm on a holiday or a Christmas or something like that. We're stuck. Who's going to maintain this road? There's a lot of thinking to do in this road. And my biggest problem is when they start coming in there and people coming out of there with their trucks and their automobiles and everything else. We got people coming from Dawson County all the time. Every 3 or 4 cars has got Dawson County license plates on it. I don't think there is a speed limit in Dawson County. I don't. I'll tell you something else. The pass on the right. My brother Tom is turning left to go down Golden Road. A kid, he said it was a kid, he thought it was, went around him doing 60 miles an hour, and there was a bicycle right there in front of him. He missed that bicycle about that far. Now what are you going to do when you got that pack full of trucks and they do that? Somebody's going to get killed. We're going to wipe out a whole family. We got to rethink. I'm not against the project at this point because I know I'm going to lose anyway. But we got to rethink access to this plant. I am not an engineer, because common sense has always gotten away. And we need to remember that. There's a lot of us guys, none of us guys in here are probably engineers, maybe two or three of them or whatever. But we can't lose sight of common sense. We've got to look that road over. We're looking for trouble. My thoughts is to have an entrance in and an exit out right off the highway. And I would imagine the state of Nebraska will eventually have to look at that, especially after we have a head-on down there and we kill a bunch of people. I don't want to pour a little water on your party, but I guess that's it. Okay. I kind of lost track. I can't even read my. I'm an 82-year-old grandpa that don't like change. Is that soaking in? Oh, you guys are way too young for that. I'm just an old duck hunter. Anyway. This snow problem, when that North Lagoon freezes over, is really going to be a problem. You're going to widen the road and you're going to eliminate the bar pits. I've been down that road for 50 years. I used to, up till now, till my heart got in the way of my head, I used to maintain it. I did for 50 years myself, by myself. But we all got to take a look at these issues. And last but not least, I have a problem with North Platte taxpayers trying to jumpstart a multi-billion-dollar industry. This bothers me. I know it's all legal and it helps promote the town and everything else, but I'm having a little trouble with that. Something to do with my age, maybe, I don't know. And I don't believe a blank check out of the White House either. I really don't. We have all seen what happens to our couch potato workforce and inflation with blank checks out of Biden. But we all seem to about face when the shoe changes feet. I think the cattle industry, which is our lifeblood, should do this on their own. It's too late now, but this is how I feel. One last little note. Are we going to rename Golden Road to Bottleneck Junction? I've said my piece. Make her safe, guys. Make this project safe. And right now, it's scaring me in that road. Let's not wipe out a whole family late for a doctor's appointment in North Platte, in Dawson County. Let's make it safe, or don't do it at all. I'm an old railroader. Safety first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golden.
Let's go. Everybody mad at me now?
We are not mad at you, Mr. Golden.
Not at all.
We have State Senator Jeff Wasserberger, and on deck, Greg Wilkie.
Jeff Wasserberger, 4300 Longhorn Avenue, Gillette, Wyoming. Members of the City Council of North Platte, Nebraska, Mr. Mayor, thank you for having me before you today to discuss the future of your city. Mr. Mayor, my name is Jeff Wasserberger, and I'm a state senator representing Campbell and Converse County. The county is where all the coal that flows through your community comes from. For the interests of full disclosure, I am the father of Trey Wasserberger, who is a founder with Sustainable Beef LLC. And that's why I'm here. Mr. Mayor, for the last 20 years, I have served in the Wyoming legislature And for 8 of those years, I have served on the Minerals, Business, and Economic Development Committee. I've spent many hours recruiting businesses to my community. You all know the future of coal, and with coal is the railroad. And so I work very hard to diversify the economy in my community. I can tell you that the great state of Wyoming would love to have the opportunity that your council has before it today, the opportunity to approve sustainable beef as a new business in North Platte. For many years, I was a social studies teacher at Campbell County High School. I coached football, wrestling, and baseball. And the biggest problem in Wyoming right now is the same problem that the state of Nebraska has: a losing football team.
You might not be endearing yourself to the crowd.
For many years, as a social studies teacher at Campbell County High School, and historically, sustainable beef is the largest form of economic development that this community has ever seen. Bigger than the Transcontinental Railroad in the 1860s. Bigger than the interstate highway system of the 1970s. And it will be more sustainable. The approval of sustainable beef will be a historic moment in the lifespan of the city of North Platte, and will have the longevity of a railroad and the interstate system. Sustainable beef will need a workforce of 875 employees year-round, and is anticipating an average salary per employee of $50,000. A total yearly payroll for sustainable beef will be approximately $44 million. And if you buy into the belief that money rolls around in your community 7 times before it leaves, you are looking at an impact to the city of North Platte of $306 million every year. I've never seen economic development in the 20 years I've been in the legislature like this. That's impact. That's real money. And that's economic development. Just think for a moment what this will mean for every business in the city of North Platte. It will improve the local community, not only its businesses, but it will put students into seats into your local school district. People in chairs in your restaurant. People in the grocery store aisle. People in the hardware store. New faces in your local churches. And you will need housing, and you will need local contractors to pound nails. Sustainable beef will change things in the city of North Platte for the better. Employees with a salary of $50,000 in health insurance will help every business in your community, and will help the medical community, and will lift up all boats. Businesses will thrive because of the new payroll that is rolling in every month. Nothing but good is going to come of this business endeavor. Good times are going to roll in the city of North Platte. This is the greatest economic development in the history of the city of North Platte, and I ask that you approve the motion that before you today. Lastly, after 20 years in the Wyoming legislature, there are things that I'm really frustrated with. And when I was first elected in 1995, there was a thing called the brain drain in Wyoming. Wyoming, a very conservative state, but it likes to spend money on education. It likes to spend money on young people. And we spent, at one point in time, the last time I checked, by the time we get a student from kindergarten all the way through our schools in 12th grade, the community colleges, and then finally the University of Wyoming, we have invested about $175,000 in that graduate. And then we watch them leave. And in 20 years, I've never been able to solve that. Now, this sustainable beef project does not solve that issue either, but it does provide jobs for lots and lots of people. and so many different jobs in so many different ways. Human resources, finances, accountants, administrators, inspectors. And so it will put jobs back into your community, and it will keep some students here, some young people here. Wyoming's biggest problem is the same problem I think that Nebraska experiences, is that our rural communities keep getting smaller and our larger communities are growing like crazy. I just drove through Omaha, Nebraska after not being there for 20 years, and I thought, oh my goodness. And so this really helps your community. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, I thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today, and I stand for questions.
We usually don't have questions at this point, but we reserve the right to call you back if we have one, okay? Thank you very much. Mr. Wilkie is up. And on deck, we have Brandon Jones.
Mr. Mayor, city officials, and city council, my name is Greg Wilkie. I live at 2220 West Leota Street, North Platte. And I've had the benefit of being involved in some of the initial conferences on this with this group of people. And I think you've heard the slogan or what they're talking about is the right people, the right place, and the right time. And specifically, I'd like to just spend a little more time talking about the right people. And the people that's been assembled, not only in the founding group, but also the people that have pledged cattle to bring to this plant, are the A-list of Western Nebraska. And I've had the pleasure of having several of these people I've known for up to over 30 years and watched them do business and how they approach this. And they've never run a packing plant, but they are finding people and experts that have. And they're going out and trying to find the best. And I think that's why not every project like this I would be for. Not every processing plant would I be for, but the right people makes a difference for me. If you know the history of the individuals involved as well as some of the experts they have, this is a class endeavor. It's a very expensive endeavor, and it's going to change the community. And as a side note here, I live in a neighborhood where they wanted to put a viaduct across the river, and it was not something I was for. A Buffalo Bill viaduct came right through my neighborhood, changed it dramatically. I use it every day, multiple times a day. Our community uses that a lot, and so that disrupted my previous, neighborhood and the traffic and that sort of thing. But I've adjusted, and the growth is far out. The benefits far outweigh the negatives for me. And so I ask that you consider this. I know it's a big decision for the city and for each of you, but be rest assured this is a class group of founders and the experts they've assembled, and I'm confident that they'll do all they can to make this a class operation that we can be proud of and bring the neighbors from out of town past it, because that's how proud that's how much pride they're putting into this project. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkie. Brandon Jones is up, and Steve Martin from AFAN is on deck, please.
Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name is Brandon Jones, 2115 Birchwood Road. I'm a local contractor as well as the current chairman of the Chamber and Development Corporation Board of Directors. It's a great society where we can all come together in an environment like this, voice our opinions and concerns. We know who here is in favor and who has reservations about this project. When we walk in the room, we will shake hands, we will say hello, ask them how they're doing, and when we leave here tonight, we'll say goodbye or talk to you later. We live in a great community with great people. Unfortunately, our community has been very stagnant in the growth department. Our community needs to see growth and see it soon. We have had a decline in population. Our current population is also aging. We've seen some businesses close, but we've also seen a few new ones open. But we need another major employer. Since talks to begin with sustainable beef, North Platte has been put on the media's map as well as development map. We started having inquiries into our community from prospects that want to have operations here. This will add to our population, our tax base, and our community growth. When we see our community grow, everyone benefits. As the community grows, the workforce will grow provide staff for additional retail stores and restaurants. As the community grows, our current businesses will have a larger customer base. We'll see new homes being built. We will see some older homes being rehabbed. We'll see more youth events and functions. The benefits of growth are endless. I think Gary Pearson said it best at a meeting or a public hearing when we were discussing this. He says, you spend your whole life in economic development and not see this kind of project with this much impact. Embrace it, support it, own it, or watch the next community who does. I think we have a great opportunity here. We all know that there will be some growing pains, but you can't make a cake without breaking a couple eggs. As everyone said tonight, sustainable beef has the slogan, the right people, the right place, and the right time. I feel that is true with these founding people. These are mostly people that live right here in our community. Their kids go to school here, they shop here, they attend our events and outings here. They're part of our community and they want the best for our community. These are the guys that we see when we go places and we meet them all the time. The North Platte Area Chamber and Development Corporation Board of Directors has unanimously voted to support this project. The North Platte Ambassadors has voted unanimously to support this project. The North Platte Public Schools has embraced and welcomed the project. Great Plains Regional Medical Center has supported the project. In my opinion, that is a pretty good snapshot of the community, and this project has overwhelming support. It's time to get a major project across the finish line and start seeing growth in our community. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Steve Martin from AFAN, please. And on deck, we have Jim Jackson.
Steve Martin, 5225 South 16th Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. And I'm here today as the Executive Director of the Alliance for the Future of Agriculture in Nebraska, or AFAN. AFAN was created, founded, supported by the commodity organizations here in Nebraska, cattlemen, pork producers, dairy industry, poultry, along with corn and soybeans, and Nebraska Farm Bureau. And I'm here today really representing that coalition in support of sustainable beef and encourage you to support it also. Just talking a little bit about the mission of AFAN, and that is to grow the livestock industry in Nebraska for the betterment of rural Nebraska. So when you think about that, we're definitely focused on the farms and ranches, creating spaces and places for that next generation to come back to. But we're also looking at what are those opportunities in rural communities, the small towns in Nebraska. And really, if you look at Nebraska, most of Nebraska is a small town. And so as we look at that and we look at this project, I want to kind of parallel it a little bit with the Costco project in Fremont. That also now we're about 8 years into that project. They've been fully operational for about 2 years. They're employing about 1,000 people. It's about $1 billion a year economic impact to their community. But the thing that is so fascinating about that project, and I had the opportunity to meet with a couple of these businesses this week, is the small companies in those communities that are thriving and growing because of the opportunity that facility presented with them. One is a small, I won't call them a job shop, but they're a small metal fabricating shop that creates automated machines to solve problems in I guess, warehouses and all kinds of different applications. And they've created 3 different machines for the Lincoln Premium Poultry Project. And this is a team of 13 people. It's a father, a daughter, and 2 sons, and then the rest of their staff. And they're creating machines that not only will Lincoln Premium Poultry buy, but they'll sell to the rest of the poultry industry in the United States and potentially around the world. And so that's right there in Blair, Nebraska, a little company that is seeing real positive impacts from that. There's another company that's creating a robot that basically, for lack of a better description, it's a Roomba for a chicken barn. It drives around, finds the dead chickens, and picks them up. That allows the farmer to focus on the live birds and the environment and the feed and do a better job of raising those chickens. So definitely what I like about that is those are tech companies. Those are not just any kind of job, so it's going to take some special training, special skills for those people, and of course they're going to be better paying jobs. So between those and all those side businesses that you're going to see come out of a project like that,
that's what really gets me excited about. Really, the big picture of this is that there's so many things that you haven't even thought about yet that will grow and develop out of this. So with that, I guess before I wrap up, last time with the Planning Commission, one of my colleagues was here, Chris Bosquet with the State Dairy Association. He asked me to express his support from the Dairy Association. He was home today with his wife. Well, I guess they're in the hospital, bringing the second generation back to the farm. So a little baby girl born today. So, and then I also brought a letter from Nebraska Farm Bureau. This is from Mark McCarg, the president of Nebraska Farm Bureau, expressing their support for the project, and on the behalf of the 55,000 members of Nebraska Farm Bureau, offers his support for that, and I can pass this around if you would like, if that's okay. Yes, and with that, I guess I will close and say again, thank you for listening, and I encourage you to support the project.
Thank you. We have Mr. Jim Jackson up and Jim Curley on deck, please.
Mr. Mayor, City Council members, and City Administrator, I hear a lot of good things coming from this podium tonight, but most all of it's from business people. And I am from an agricultural family. My grandparents grew herpers up north.
Sir, hold on a second. Sorry, we need your address, please. Sorry, just for the record.
Jim Jackson, 2320 Birchwood Road.
Thank you very much. Please.
Next door to the Buffalo Street Highway. Anyway, I'm all for this cattle industry improving their means of production or their income. What I don't like, and what I've seen with Grand Island and Lexington that have the big beef packing plants, they have problems with schools. How many bilingual teachers do we have in North Platte that are going to be ready to take on? Most of these people that work at these plants are immigrants, and some of them, or quite a few of them, are illegal immigrants. What's it going to do to the crime rate in North Platte? I talked to the sheriff, Mr. Kramer, several times about the expansion on the jail before it was done and why it was needed. He says, well, we have a big drug problem in North Platte. Well, with this many more people and a lot of them being illegal immigrants possibly coming in, what's that going to do to the crime rate that we have now? His claim was that he can rent out these jail cells for $55 a day or whatever the amount is, and it'll pay for the price of this expansion on this jail within 5 years. That might be true. But if we increase our population base like people are thinking it's going to happen, what's it going to do? You know, these jail cells will not be used from other counties like it is being used now. They'll be used exclusively probably for Lincoln County people. It's just too many things that are iffy. School problems, crime problem, the traffic problem. Before they opened the Buffalo Viaduct, I was in favor of the Buffalo Viaduct, but since they've done that, the truck traffic over there has increased tremendously. It was so bad when they were working on Jefferson Street Viaduct. I had several times trucks run stop sign at A in Buffalo. One time I about got hit by a sand and gravel truck who never even slowed down for that stop sign. I've talked to Mr. Kibbens about it once, and the prior mayor and the prior city administrator, and the prior administrator told me if these through trucks do not have a delivery in that part of town, they're not supposed to use these residential streets, but they're doing it daily. And the same thing is going to happen out on the road that will be used to get to this plant if it's looks like it's going to go through, and I'm pretty sure it will from what I see. And I'm all for businesses, you know, increasing their profits or maintaining their business. And for the cattle dealers, I had a good friend who sold over 500 herd of Black Angus this January because he said it was too hard to make a living anymore. They were not getting the money. The processors or whoever is delivering this beef to the grocery stores are the ones that are making the money, not the cattle producers. And it's something to think about, all the problems that we might have with increase in population, with illegal immigrants coming in, many people not knowing how to speak English if they arrive here, because if you look at Lexington and Grand Island, there's very few probably residents that work in that beef industry in both of those places. But it's something to think about. I hope you make the right decisions and hope we don't have the problems that these other cities have had with the smell, the crime rate, and other problems with the increase in number of trucks using the roads in our county is going to be a problem too. So it's something to think about. I thank you for your time. Hope everything works out for the best.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. We have Jim Curley up, please, and I think it's Cicely Batty, I think maybe. I may not have said that name correctly.
Hello, Council. I'm Jim Curley, 10603 Black Forest Drive in Parker, Colorado. My brother and I are small-time real estate investors up here. We're originally from Nebraska, and Colorado had a big thing happen in 2012 called marijuana, and it sent property values through the roof. We couldn't afford it there. We're from here, so we bought property in 2018, way before this project was even discussed. We're up here every week. You can go to Qdoba's, Starbucks, anywhere, and they're advertising for jobs. There's so many jobs open in this town. So if this plant gets going, and I hope it does, it may be similar to what I experienced as a capital equipment salesman to the long-term care industry about 10 years ago. They couldn't find help either. So they brought in Somalians. And I'll tell you what, those people have a heart of gold, and they worked so hard they couldn't hire the local population. The previous speaker said illegal immigrants. I doubt that. They have to go through a long process. They're not going to be hiring illegals, but will they be immigrants? Sure. Will the composition of North Platte change as a result? Sure could. But I think it'd be for the better because they're here to work. They want to work. That's why they're coming. So I had not thought of what the senator from Wyoming said, but the federal government really is after coal and big polluting railroad cars. That could diminish in this town. It's always been a very stable base, but people are always going to eat meat. There's a shortage of processing right now, and I've just never seen such a great opportunity. So I hope the vote is in favor. There will always be a few people that do not want anything that causes change. But North Platte will change. There will be difficulties. Any big project, any big undertaking, that's always true. But I hope you vote for it. I think it'll be great for this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Curley. We have, I think it's Cicely Batty. Is it Batty? Beatty. Beatty, sorry. I ruined that. And on deck, David Gale, I think, or maybe Gall.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Cicely Beatty, and I live at 2819 South 44th Street in Lincoln, Nebraska. I come before you today. I'm the Assistant Director of the Department of Agriculture. So someone had mentioned earlier, my boss and a couple other people are already in Kearney for the Farm Bureau Convention, so you have to deal with me. But I'm coming on behalf of the department to express our support for this project and Sustainable Beef and all of the work that they have put into getting it this far in front of you where we are tonight. I also am bringing with me, and I believe you should have a copy already of a letter of support from Governor Ricketts in your packet. Okay, great. I won't need to read that, and I'll keep my comments brief because I can say other people have more knowledge on the technical aspects of it, but I do want to just address some comments that were previously made. I grew up in Lexington, and so if anyone wants to complain about the type of community that Lexington has become, I am a direct result of that community. I am in my position today because of mentors and leaders in that community, my friends, my classmates, all because of decisions that Lexington Community Council members would have made and who were in your shoes years ago. So I just want to say that I'm very proud of where I come from, and I think that I could only be in front of you today in the capacity that I am because of that community. So I thought I will close, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sorry, I mispronounced your last name. Okay, David Gale. And on deck, we have Mel McNay.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, my name's David Gale, 3416 Tyler Court. I'm the CEO of Sandhill State Bank, which has 10 branches throughout western Nebraska. 65% of our customers are livestock producers. The other 35% are farmers. I grew up in North Platte, graduated in 1988 from Nebraska North Platte High School, a year behind Mayor Keller. His wit was just as sharp then as it is now. But North Platte was a great town then, thanks to a lot of the people like Don and Kay Lucas who invested in kids my age. It's a great town now. 2 years ago, I had the chance to move back to North Platte from Bassett. It's been a great move for our family. Thanks to all the work that you've put in to make this, to keep the town great. And 20 years from now, North Platte's going to be a great town regardless of what happens with this project. It just is. That's who we are. The businesses that I deal most with or know the most are ranching and farming. What we talk a lot about in those industries is scale. Spreading your fixed costs over more cows or more acres. As the gentleman mentioned earlier, you used to be able to run a profitable operation on 100 cows. Today it's probably more like 1,000. So scale equals profitability, which equals sustainability. And that sustainability allows you to buy the place next door or bring your daughter's family home so they can help you out if you can get another section. But not only are ag families sustainable, but then cities have to be sustainable too. What sustainable beef I think really brings to North Platte is the ability for our town to scale, to spread our fixed costs as a city and as a county over a larger tax base. We don't have, one way that you can get out of being a commodity producer is to have a niche. As a city, we don't have a niche. We're not in the mountains, we're not by the ocean. Why my dad moved here from Omaha in 1972 was because he loved to hunt and fish. And my boys and I have that same joy, but with that same interest, but that's not a niche that's going to grow our town. So we have to figure out a way to scale. As Mr. Pearson said, when I was growing up, we were the fourth largest city in Nebraska. Today, we're the ninth largest. So to keep our hospital growing, to keep our airline and our airport growing, to keep the schools full, to keep our restaurants, to keep our retail facilities growing and local, it's important that we scale our city and scale our county to keep it sustainable. And I can't think of a better way to do that with an industry on the interstate in cattle country that's tied to agriculture. One other thing that hasn't been brought up tonight, but that I've heard from a lot of our customers, farmers are just as excited about this as livestock producers. Having sustainable beef here will also allow our feedlots and our feeding operations to expand, not only in Lincoln County, but in a 100 to 200 mile radius, which is going to increase the basis that our corn producers also get. So it doesn't just help our ranchers, it doesn't just help our feedlots, it helps our corn and grain producers a lot. And really in terms of economic impact along the Platte River, your most bang for your buck in economic is going to be from corn production as much as cattle production. So with all that, thanks for all you're doing, and please approve this plan.
Thank you. We have Mel McNay up, and then Eric Hansen on deck, please.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Kelleher and City Councilman. What a wonderful night tonight. As I'm sitting here, and we talked earlier about the honor and the recognition that we gave people that really served our country at Pearl Harbor and their lives that they gave. What a great celebration of democracy here tonight. The sharing of ideas in a positive way and pro and con and in a civil manner. Democracy does work, and this is democracy in action. Again, my address, I thought I maybe didn't mention it, 3402 West F Street, Mel McNay. And as I'm sitting back here in the audience, I'm sitting next to a young man. His name is Cash. He's probably crawling under his chair right now. But Cash has a future, and he wants to be part of the cattle industry here in Nebraska. At an early age, I was sharing with him, I kind of excelled in science, so my mom at one point said, there's three of you. All of you can't stay on the farm or the ranch, you're going to have to go. And so I didn't get that choice. And I think that we need to give our young Nebraskans and our cattlemen a chance to control their future and the generation that precede them. This is a young man that is, as I can tell, is an outstanding young adult and is going to be a great citizen for our state. Let's give him that chance. I would also tell you that this cattle industry, it helps them control their own destiny, but it's also going to have a huge impact on other industries. The healthcare industry, I'm the CEO at Great Plains Health. One of the major complaints we have from our physicians and providers is, gee, there's not enough of me of my specialty. I have to take up to 10 nights of call. I have to put a lot of my life and quality of time in call. If we add 800 people to our community and grow our services, we can recruit more specialists and specialists that we currently don't have, and people having to travel outside our city for services. The other comment I would make, and I promised Brandon, and I'm looking at him from a different perspective right now than this morning, is that I keep my comments short. And that is also not just the impact on our providers, but we have a lot of providers, nurses, frontline staff that we're blessed to have come here from foreign countries. They are not a hindrance for our community. They service our community, and they're great citizens. So we can make this happen. Great Plains Health was excited today to find out for the third year in a row we're the top rural hospital in the United States. dreams can happen, and as we work together, a community, we can do this. And so I want to speak in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Hansen, please, and Mike Kelly on deck.
Hello, my name is Eric Hansen. I'm a cow-calf rancher from just north of North Platte here, 3723 West Foothill Road. Tonight I'm representing the Nebraska cattlemen, and I'm going to read a quick letter here from them. The Nebraska cattlemen is grateful for the opportunity to express our members' emphatic support for Sustainable Beef LLC's proposed new beef processing facility endeavor in North Platte. Fed cattle market access, adding beef cattle harvest and processing capacity within Nebraska, and rural economic development continue to be headline priorities for the members of Nebraska cattlemen. As our members continue to work through repeated black swan events and sustained impacts of the COVID pandemic, forward-thinking and timely projects like Sustainable Beef LLC are the right time, right place solutions needed to address these priorities. Adequate beef processing capacity is critical to maintaining profitability in the beef cattle industry and ensuring a steady supply of beef and beef products to consumers. Currently, not only is there a shortage of adequate processing capacity, but also a reduction of processing across the country. To improve producer leverage in fed cattle negotiations, either cattle supplies must be further reduced or processing capacity must be expanded. With domestic and foreign beef demand continuing at an all-time high, the obvious solution is to meet this growing demand is to expand the beef processing capacity. Nebraska Cattlemen wants the next generation of cattlemen and women to succeed with more options and opportunities to return home and thrive in rural Nebraska. Projects like Sustainable Beef LLC accomplish this goal. Nebraska Cattlemen would like to repeat our emphatic support for Sustainable Beef LLC to develop new markets for our producer members by increasing harvest capacity and provide a positive economic impact on the rural Nebraska communities. I'm fortunate enough that to be the fifth generation on our ranch. My great-grandparents chose our location just north of North Platte in 1877. So I've lived here all my life. I've raised my family here. My entire family has gone through school in North Platte. We've done all our business, paid all our taxes here in North Platte. And, you know, for a long time, I've heard the word stagnant here a lot tonight. And that's the way I felt. I felt very stagnant as a member of this community. I guess I felt the property taxes were high and it seemed like there was not a lot of growth. Sadly, I'd say the sixth generation of the Hansen 77 Ranch doesn't have much interest in coming back to North Platte. And I applaud you people tonight for leading this community towards change and towards improvement. And I see this packing plant and all the things that come about with it as an opportunity to change what's going on here and try and bring these young people back to North Platte. I feel like this project is the right thing for my industry, my family, and my town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kelly, and on deck we have Jim Backenstoes.
Mike Kelly, 719 South Maloney here in North Platte. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I come here before you tonight wearing a couple different hats. Our family has a ranch north of Sutherland, of which I have two sons on the ranch, and also I am CEO of Western Nebraska Bank here in North Platte. I was born in North Platte, graduated from Sutherland High School, and have been associated with the ranch and more lately with Western Nebraska Bank as of late. In the 1980s, as you know, we had a population of approximately 24,000, and I think today our population is very similar to that. back in the day, when I grew up, my dad had approximately 150 cows or so and was able to sustain our family. Today, we need to run many more than that, maybe close to that 1,000 head. But a ranch, a farm, a bank, we all have to continue to grow to survive. And I think that's very true about our city too. And if we want to have our kids come back, if we want to have our grandkids come back and our great-grandkids, we need to grow, and we have a marvelous opportunity before us tonight to, in fact, help assist those kids to come back to our town. More recently, 2 or 3 weeks ago, our bank had a bank board meeting, and one of the topics at our board meeting was this very thing, the sustainable beef, and what it would do to our community. I have a resolution that we formulated at that board meeting, and I'd like to take a couple minutes and read that to you. Whereas Sustainable Beef has proposed a 1,500 head day processing plant in North Platte, and whereas Sustainable Beef predicts that this plant would employ 875 workers and is expected to generate another 1,100 jobs in supporting businesses, and whereas Sustainable Beef demand for livestock would also positively impact the area market for classes of livestock, which would benefit area livestock producers, and whereas Creighton University economist Ernie Goss estimates that the new plant and associated businesses would have a significant long-term economic impact to the area, and whereas Western Nebraska Bank has branch locations in North Platte, Curtis, Paxton, and Thedford, which are all communities that would be positively impacted by the proposed processing plant. Therefore, be it resolved that Western Nebraska Bank supports and encourages the approval of Sustainable Beef Project in North Platte. And I thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Jim Backenstos, and on deck, Kelly Dykeman.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and City Councilman. My name is Jim Backenstos, 2109 Iron Eagle Court. I'm going to repeat what everybody's been saying here, but the positivity in this room's been fantastic. I don't remember that when I sat on the City Council. But what I wanted to say tonight is I remember a few years back to remind everybody about the concern we had with the railroad, especially after what happened in Sidney, Nebraska with Cabela's leaving town, and there was a lot of concern in this community about becoming a ghost town because you heard all the talk about maybe the railroad was going to leave. Well, here's our opportunity right here, right now. The future starts right here tonight.
Kelly Dykeman, and on deck we have Tanner Patera.
2502 Cedarberry Lane is my address. For our community to grow, there are going to be growing pains. Sadly, no one likes the change that has to happen for growth to occur. North Platte has relied on Bailey Yards for too long, to our detriment. We've lost the opportunity for many businesses to come here. I work in Gothenburg. Why? Because my employer pays a decent wage, and I couldn't find that here in North Platte. Gothenburg is a small town, and they do a fantastic job recruiting new businesses. The place that I work should be in North Platte. We contract with Union Pacific. They've been there for 11 years. North Platte should have had that business. North Platte should have had curb tender after Baldwin's closed. But Gothenburg does it because they do a fantastic job of recruiting businesses. Our tax revenue, it has to increase. Homeowners cannot sustain North Platte. If the state lowers our levies, it's not a problem. We just get our tax values on our homes jacked up, makes the difference. So we don't ever see any tax breaks in our property taxes. We can't sustain that. We want things to do for our kids. I've heard so many parents talk about fantastic skate parks. Our rec center needs to be remodeled. We need things for our kids to get them outside, off of video games. My husband and I visited Lake Havasu, Arizona, at the beginning of November, and they have a beautiful, absolutely beautiful skate park. I've never seen anything like it before. There are 100 kids there, families, and just enjoying this beautiful skate park. And I couldn't believe how the talent from these kids, it gets them outside. We need things like that. There are indoor obstacle courses that could be going into the new mall, things that our kids need. We want families. We need those things. North Platte is known as the canteen town, and we welcome everyone, just not those people. And we want new businesses, but not that one. And I've seen this in North Platte. We are welcoming when we want to be. This sustainable beef project is a boon for our town. We need it desperately. I've talked to a lot of people. Some are 50-50 on their decisions. They see the benefits, but they also believe that you won't see the bad things until it's up and running and a few years down the line. Some of the questions that I've had have the Golden Road. Is the possibility of paving that road? We've lived in the country, and we've had trucks get stuck in our driveway. We've had low maintenance on our roads. We've had the feed yard over on cattle growers come to help us clean out our driveway. And the snow is so bad, they had their four-wheel drive tractor stuck in my driveway for 3 months because they couldn't get it out. So we're driving through the pastures. So I understand Golden's concern there. So those are huge concerns. Can a road come off of Newberry and not have to go down the dirt road? Can it be paved? I would like those questions answered. Is there going to be a holding pen for cattle when they can't be processed every day? If a truck gets there late, will cattle be held there overnight or over the weekend? Lights lowered at night to decrease the light pollution. Those are just some of the things that I've had brought up to me. I support this plant. We cannot afford another debacle like we had during Corona, when farmers and ranchers are killing their hogs and killing their cattle because they can't get it to the plants. We can't. George Soros famously said, if we control the commodities, we control the people. It's time to take that control back from those big three producers and give it to a local market so that we can have that control here. And I am 100% in support of this plant, and I hope you will too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Tanner Patera, and that is the last card that I have. So if you would like to speak, you need to get over there and see Dawn. Dawn, raise your hand, please, and get your name on a card. Thank you. Okay.
Tanner Patera, 3821 Sugarberry Court. I was told the line at Vegas on the meeting going over 3 hours was a pretty good bet, so I got to talk for 40 minutes.
I'll probably cut you off.
You're going to cut me off? Okay. The boss says I got to keep it short. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mayor, thank you for all that you do, and thank you for everything you put into this city. None of you really expected when you signed up for your current jobs that we'd be looking at the projects we've put through this year. So, I mean, you've taken on things and talked to numerous people, all in favor and all against. I've talked to you all individually about this project and multiple other projects. I'm here tonight on behalf of myself and also on behalf of the North Platte Ambassadors. I'm currently the president of the North Platte Ambassadors. North Platte Ambassadors encompasses 50 active members in the community of business owners, bankers, business professionals. There's also different levels of membership. We encompass well over probably 100 to 200 gentlemen that made impacts in this community. The ambassadors support this project wholly. We want to see North Platte grow. We all understand where North Platte was. I mean, for the record, I was actually born in 1980 when everybody keeps talking about the number. We were the fourth and now we're ninth. The one thing that I think is truly exciting about this project is the catalyst it can move forward in this town. No, is it the perfect project? No, there is no perfect project. I mean, what Sheriff Kramer said at the Planning Commission is we could build a chocolate factory and we're still going to have problems. I think that was a great analysis of the project. The one thing that kind of sticks out on me on numbers that nobody tried to touch on earlier was the poverty rate. So currently, the poverty rate is much higher than it was in 1980. I think the numbers that I've seen were in the teens in the 80s. We are much higher than that now. I mean, we have a high enough poverty rate in this town right now. All students in the public schools eat for free every day, okay? So this is the kind of jobs that they're potentially offering to get people away from poverty. You need a job that is going to pay above average wage to convince somebody to get off social assistance. I'm all for social assistance. I think it's needed, but I also believe that we need to get more things moving. We can get this town growing. I mean, this is potentially the snowball that we start down the hill. We see a lot of things going with the rail park that potentially is coming and other things that could be coming because of this project. So I thank you all for everything you do for this city and supporting this project.
Thank you. For the record, we have this letter, all the council, you have it in front of you. I'm just going to read it so that it's in the record. It is from Anthony Goins, who is the director of the Nebraska Department of Economic Development. Dear Mr. Kelleher, on behalf of the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, I express my full support for Sustainable Beef LLC's North Platte Packing Facility Development Project. This project is positioned to be one of the greatest economic development drivers in west central Nebraska, offering tremendous potential for growth and revitalization in the surrounding rural communities. This $325 million investment is projected to generate over $1 billion in annual revenue for the region. It will also create 175 good-paying jobs with a starting salary of nearly $50,000. The addition of the plant will further increase the region's beef packing capacity, enabling cattlemen to stand more of their producer-owned cattle for processing. Being founded by 6 Western Nebraska families, Sustainable Beef will benefit local communities and everyday Nebraskans. The importance of this project and its economic impacts in both the short and long term cannot be overstated. I look forward to seeing it come to fruition. Thank you for the opportunity to show our support. Again, that was Anthony Goins, Director of the Nebraska Department of Economic Development. Sorry, everybody, my eye is failing me here tonight. We also received a letter from Governor Pete Ricketts that is a bit smaller than the letter I read a moment ago. Matt, would you read it? My eye's driving me crazy here. Sorry, everybody.
Dear members of North Platte City Council, I am writing to express my support for the passage of Sustainable Beef LLC's redevelopment project. I encourage you to approve this important project that will have a significant, valuable economic impact on the community of North Platte and the entire state of Nebraska. The vision for my administration is to grow Nebraska, and that includes agriculture. Agriculture is the heart and soul of our state, delivering over $21 billion of cash receipts annually while supporting 1 out of 4 jobs. An important way to grow agriculture is to add value to our products. Feeding grain to livestock is an efficient way to add value to the grain we grow. The cattle industry grows Nebraska by generating over $10 billion in cash receipts each year. The ability to process that livestock adds even more value before it goes to the consumer. Nebraska has long been known as the beef state. Due to the hard work of generations of ranchers and cattle feeders, Nebraska leads the U.S. in many areas related to beef production. Nebraska ranks number 1 in commercial cattle slaughter at 6.982 million head. Number 2 in beef and veal exports at 1.296 billion. Number 2, all cattle and calves, 6.85 million head. Number 2, all cattle on feed, 2.72 million head. Number 2 in commercial red meat production at 7.91 billion pounds. Number 4 in beef cows at 1.9 million head. Number 4 in total animal products exported 1.848 billion, and number 4 in cash receipts from all livestock products, 11.899 billion. While many generations of cattle producers got us to where we are today, the sustainable beef facility is for our future generations. The success of this project will benefit the city of North Platte and our economy well into the future. Please join me with your full support to approve Sustainable Beef LLC's redevelopment project, which will further advance our mission to grow Nebraska. Thank you for your continued support of growth in our great state. Sincerely, Pete Ricketts.
Thank you. Clearly, Mr. Kibben's eyes work better than mine do. Okay. I've gone through the list of cards. Council, we would need a motion to close the public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion Reeker, second Nisley. Calling the question on closing the public hearing. Ms. Tryon and Mr. Woods, your votes did not register. Thank you. Okay, the public hearing is now closed. Thank you. At this time, we will take a 10-minute break. Everybody get up, move around, visit the restroom, whatever you need to do. We will reconvene in 10 minutes, which is approximately 7:40. We're taking it.
I do have to pee.
You're gonna race everybody over there?
Do they have more than one restroom in this building?
They do. If you get a hold, ask.
without using the gavel, so. Okay, we have a little bit of a procedural misunderstanding to clear up here, and that's what I'm about to do. And this is really kind of a, well, let's just say it was a mistake kind of on my part, and, you know, when you screw up, you need to admit you made a mistake and you need to apologize, so I'm sorry, and then you need to solve the problem and then you need to move on. So we're gonna solve the problem here. And it is possible that there is a little bit of discrepancy, what's in the council books and what was filed with the city clerk with regard to the motion that could be made in Sustainable Beef Project. And so I want to make sure, in the interest of transparency and all that we don't mess this up, because this is a big deal for our community and we need to do it correctly. And, you know, Matt and I work very hard to try to make sure everything is precise as possible. And in this one, we kind of dropped the ball. So accidentally, it's purely a misunderstanding, but we're going to clear it up right now because that's the right thing to do. So I have here in my hand a copy of a resolution, has a letter A up in the corner here, okay? This is the, letter A is the original version that was filed with the city clerk. This is what we have to consider tonight, okay? With the best of intentions, what got into at least some of your books was B, okay? Which had some slightly different language regarding the paragraph that relates to odor. Okay, that's the only difference. So I'm gonna hand you, each council person, a copy so that you can review them. So Matt, would you take A and I'll take B?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
This is Amy's. There's no page numbers. What is it? Thank you.
No, thank you, Mayor.
See it. I don't see it. Are you sure this is the right copy?
I think we're missing some pages.
I lost my A. Can I borrow your A?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So let me point out the difference. Looking at letter A, looking at the third page. Paragraph 2 on the third page, in version A, says, "The redevelopment plan is approved in the form filed in the North Platte City Clerk." Okay, excuse me, with the North Platte City Clerk. Okay? Version B is a different set of language that a council member could vote to amend, or you may not choose to do that. That is the only significance of B at this point. Okay? So I'm going to give the council a couple minutes to look at and do some comparison so that you're comfortable with what we're doing here. Everybody, I apologize. Again, a little clerical error here. We're cleaning it up.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Yes.
Which version is online with the agenda book that people could pull off the city's website?
Version A.
That is the correct version that is online.
That is correct.
Okay.
So it's not
Okay.
talking about the specific issue. Okay, the one filed with the clerk's office is.
Right, thank you.
A.
Matt just
Okay,
brought
I
up a
got
good
it.
point.
I got
Want
it.
to
But
clarify,
what-
this is the resolution. This is not a change to the actual redevelopment plan.
So this is A. So this one refers to the original that. This is a change.
Okay, everybody had a chance to review?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on. Item number 14, consider action on Planning Commission's recommendation to approve the City of North Platte redevelopment plan as filed for the Sustainable Beef LLC redevelopment project on property described as a tract of land in the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter and in part of government lots 1 and 2, Section 11, Township 13, North, Range 30, west of the 6th PM, Lincoln County, Nebraska, pursuant to Nebraska Community Development Law and passage of appropriate resolution. We need a motion to continue.
Mr. Mayor, be happy to make a
Lucas,
motion.
you have the floor.
I move to adopt Resolution 2021-2 as presented in the council materials and approval of the City of North Platte redevelopment plan for Sustainable Beef LLC redevelopment project and approval of related actions with the development plan in the form filed with the North Platte City Clerk.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion Lucas, second Vols. We will now have discussion among the council on item number 14. And just to be clear, Mr. Lucas, you have motioned what is letter A on these items. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And Mr. Wade, if there's anything in my motion that you don't think is consistent with that, please let me know. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, as you are the motion maker, you have the right to speak first. If you would like to ask anyone from the audience up to answer questions, I do intend to have a couple people answer questions, but please proceed.
Okay. No, I'd be happy to. No, I just to share my thoughts on this project. I'm very excited about it, very supportive of it. You know, I started, I remember Mr. Garrick saying cautiously optimistic. That's a term that I remember. And then I felt that my job as a city council member was to conduct significant research. Researched other plants, other communities, and became more and more positive about the prospects of this project as I continued to do research. I would like to share with anybody listening, the CUNY, Idaho trip was not about seeing how a plant works, because I was able to do a lot of that online. It was about seeing what the impact on the community was. And I think people are pretty smart around here, because the biggest negative we heard from a lot of places was concerns with light pollution and road congestion, manure on roads, plans for cleaning. And so my plea to the city officials that issue building permits and to the developer is, please don't take those issues lightly. We'd appreciate attention to those items, because I continually, in my research, have heard a lot of positive things about plants like this, but I've heard those are the things that can get skipped. Sometimes, you know, everybody's focused on some of the potential negative items, but a lot of times it's some of the little things, road congestion, manure on the roads, and again, lights getting turned down at the right time, or maybe getting pointed down instead of up, or however that works. But I just ask all of involved to please be attentive to those things, because the people that I've talked to after the fact say, you know, those are some of the issues that we wish we would have spent a little more time on from the beginning. Housing is going to be our objective and our biggest problem that I think we deal with as a result of this as a community, which is really a good problem to have. So I hope we have housing developers out there listening tonight. My plea to you is, if this passes, well, even if it doesn't pass, we need you either way, because this project will significantly compound the shortage of housing we have. And so I would also encourage this council and everybody in the community to continue to think about our position on things like TIF and community collaborations when it comes to housing, because I don't think the problem is going to necessarily just completely solve itself with market conditions because of all the demand in other communities and the cost of construction. But anyway, I'm very excited to push my button tonight. When you decide to run for things like this, you look forward to the opportunities to help the community.
Thank you. Mr. Vols, you have the floor.
Just like Ty, I'm extremely excited. this vote tonight, it's not the end, but I'm kind of looking at it as a beginning of the sustainable beef conversation. And in order for sustainable beef in North Platte to be successful in this endeavor, cooperation and communication are essential. I take comfort knowing the people who are sitting out in this audience tonight. And I would like to ask a couple questions if Mr. Briggs, I just drew a blank for a second, if you could direct, it has to do with the site plan and some of the concerns that some of the constituents brought up. And I know this isn't a final, I'm looking at your site plan, and I know it's not a final design, but if you could kind of put us at ease a little bit with the concerns with Golden Road. If you can put us at ease a little bit with, possibly locations, or if this could change much. And I would love to hear that this is the beginning for you guys too, and that communication between the principals will continue on. So, Mr. Briggs?
Thanks, Councilman Voles. Yeah, so Golden Road, that is as of today, that is the planned entrance to the plant, because there really is no entrance off of Highway 83 at this time. I'm not sure of the process there. We have professionals on the line from Olson Engineering that maybe can speak to that. But that's something we really have not looked into at this time, because we think getting another access off Highway 83 is pretty difficult. But we are going to, part of our TIF project is we are going to redo Golden Road. We're going to pave it. It'll be basically interstate standard to handle the truck traffic and truck weights. We are looking at adding a second entrance on the east side. That's not on the plan today, but that is something we are studying. Part of our concern is how the rainwater, how we collect it on our site, and how it will drain off to the northeast. That is by design. That's actually not the way it normally would flow to the southeast. We are going to push to the northeast, and so we're not sure if we can put another entrance there because of that, how we designed that plant. So we're still studying that with our engineering firm. One concern had to do with flooding. We're appreciative that people are concerned about that, because we definitely are concerned about that too, and which is why we are going to raise the elevation of the ground significantly. And then our floor of our plant will be dock height, so that'll be another 4 feet higher than the ground height. And that floor will be 5 feet higher than Newberry Road or Highway 83. It's my understanding water has never gone across Highway 83. Also, it's my understanding water has never gone across the berms of the active lagoon today. Our plant's going to be higher than those berms. And so we're very confident that a lot of the concerns we think we've mitigated. We don't take lightly the concerns about traffic congestion. However, during I think it was the Planning Commission, Mr. Birkeland spoke to traffic counts, and I believe the traffic counts on Highway 83 are like 3,000 a day. Traffic counts on Cody are like 8,000 a day. Very similar roads, I understand. There's room for significant increase. We're probably going to have roughly 100 trucks total, 50 in and 50 out every day. That's significantly less than what's going to the DC Center today. So we really don't think that's going to be as bad as people project, but we do understand that concern, and we'll work on that. So any other questions on that, I could try to answer them, or if you want one of our professionals to talk. But as far as the engineering on cattails or marshland, again, I leave that up to the engineers to design that. They've told us that they could fix those issues, much like the inside of the berm. We're going to raise that up. We think we can do the similar thing on the road. Again, I'm going to leave that up to professionals to design that.
You want them to comment?
What's that?
If you want the professionals to comment, I think we have them on the phone.
Yep, if you want to, that'd be fine.
Yeah, if they would, that'd be.
Gentlemen on the phone.
Okay. I actually have Dave Powers here from Olson Engineering, and he'll speak to the road issue.
Okay.
I'm Dave Post with Olson out of Kearney, Nebraska. To speak about the roads that we have through here and what we're going to have, we plan to work with the city engineer, Brent specifically, to evaluate the road width, traffic counts, turn lanes, drainage, subgrade issues, preparation, all of that. We know that we've got some bad soils underneath there, but we can bridge just about everything, just about anything in this day and age now. Everything that we've done at this point is all conceptual. We'll have to move forward with traffic counts, but yes, we will adhere to all traffic standards that we have to going through there, whether that's turn lanes, widening of 83, Newberry access or not. Yep. But as of right now, we're in exceptional mode. All those avenues will be explored.
Okay.
Followed through.
Thank you.
Let me just ask a follow-up question while he's up there. Mr. Golden asked about difficulties widening that road. I mean, it would seem logical that we would possibly need to widen that road. Could you talk about that a little bit, please?
There are a couple different options you can go with there on widening that road. Where we're at now, according to the physical size of it from the embankment to embankment is only a certain distance. Well, we can handle that with storm sewer if we have to. It's your rate of flow and your evaporation or percolation rate and what it's going to be going through there. You can get your time of concentration cut down with pavement, and you can transfer more water that way. The ditches that he has right now, there is no more roads going through there other than to get to the bottom of those TOA slopes, but we can handle that with storm sewer. Should be able to.
Okay.
Can I get in while he's up there?
Why not?
I think a lot of people would be very interested in hearing about just a little recap of what the environmental permitting process is like. That's something I've been asked about a number of times. If someone would provide a quick overview of that, I'd appreciate it.
I am not the environmental specialist for our organization. I wish I could answer those questions. Just know that right now we are working with our permitting specialist, Nick Stanke, out of our Lincoln office, and he is taking everything into consideration. It's all I can mention at this point.
Anybody on this side of the room? These two are kind of taking over the microphone over here. No? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, and it's only because you're up here. Are you an aeration, or are you the lagoon specialist?
No, I am
Okay.
not. No. Paving specialist is my forte. So. But I can tell you that from contractors I've dealt with up in the Sand Hills and people who have built in the River Valley, just a blanket statement is you can bridge just about everything with 4 feet of sand. So that'll help our cause. We are in the Sand Hills and the valleys. Any other questions?
Looks like we're okay for the moment. Thank you.
Just a comment while we're on roads. I was with the team that went to Kuna, and the roads in Kuna, Newberry makes those look like, Newberry is a super highway compared to the roads that go by the plant over there. So they were paved, but barely. The gravel road on Golden Road is actually better than what they had out there. So, but I really appreciate you guys taking a look at that. I think those are valid concerns, and take those to heart, and I appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
One question.
Reeker, you have the floor.
One question for the engineer. Dealing with snow, that was one question that came up, or one comment that came up, and how is that going to be taken care of? Do you have a plan to take care of the snow that's going to be coming off of the North Lagoon?
We'll look at prevailing winds. I've got some experience in airports, which handles that prevailing wind as well. My crystal ball's a little hazy when it comes to wind direction and where it's going through there. I'm not as familiar as Mr. Golden is, but I can see there's an issue there with that north berm that's coming across there. I would assume that we should be able to put up some kind of mitigation to keep it to a minimum, but that will probably be some additional maintenance on that road for snow removal. It's a possibility, but I'm sure there are other issues, snow fences, things like that will be. I don't know if there's a scientific answer that you're going for here, but it'll be a trial and error, and I guarantee you that that'll have to be something that will be addressed as part of this.
I would think as a city, we would be very open to having snow fence installed on our property to mitigate some of the snow that might come across the lagoon too.
I would assume that is the area he was in question, was the North Lagoon for the most part on the north side of Golden Road.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Briggs, I have a couple other questions if you wouldn't mind.
Okay.
Another question was asked was about a cattle holding facility, and I know we've kind of generically discussed this, but what is the plan? Will there be cattle there overnight, or do we know?
there will be no cattle there overnight. So the plan is that we can hold about half a day's worth of cattle at a time. So just-in-time delivery, how these cattle will be brought into our plant, they'll start showing up roughly 2 to 3 in the morning, probably about 3 in the afternoon, 2 to 3 in the afternoon is when the last truck will leave. And then as the plant winds down, all the cattle will be processed that day. And then the unlikely event that we would have to have those cattle that overnight, most likely we would haul those to a local feedlot to be taken care of.
Okay.
But it's designed to only hold half a day's worth of processing. We're not going to have a whole slug of cattle on day one. It's designed to only have a minimum amount of cattle there at one time.
Okay, and then another question was brought up, had to do with, in essence, light pollution. That's what my note says. I don't think that's how it was asked, but what, maybe a little early to ask this question, but what sort of lights? Obviously, you want the plant lit up when it's dark, but I'm assuming that you'll be compliant with the city's light
We will
rules,
comply with your ordinance.
which kind of keep the light on your
Mr.
property.
Berkland addressed that in the planning commission also, that, most of your LED lights today are directional lighting, and so they'll be pointed a certain direction, and really, we shouldn't have that much light leaving the property. And, but we'll have, we'll have a sizable parking lot, and so a lot of concrete around there, around the whole plant, and we'll want that lit up, because could be have some activity, moving trucks around in the evening, or trucks showing up early in the morning, and so forth, so we will want to have lighting out there, yes.
Okay,
That it?
that ends my questions. Mr. Reeker, you have the floor.
Yes, Mr. Briggs, this deals with odor in particular. I grew up on a farm, so odor's not a big deal for me. I grew up in it. But I was in Fremont here a while back, and I spoke with some of their city planners there, and actually was told that they have basically no odor emissions from that plant there, which I presume the system that you're going to be using is going to be very similar to that and maybe even upgraded compared to what's at Kuna right now?
Our system will be identical to what Kuna has today.
Identical, okay.
Scrubbers, yes.
Okay.
That's the design today, yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Ms.
Mr.
Ryan,
Briggs,
you have
can
the
you kind of explain that system? Because I think people are kind of wondering how that works.
Well, I'm not sure I can explain it. What's that?
Is there anybody on there that?
Is Jeff?
Jeff had to go, right? Yeah. So is Tyler on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can, Tyler. Tyler's from
Yeah,
Schmeckley Construction.
This is Tyler with Schmeckley Brothers Construction, and a simple way to explain the pollution is it goes through multiple scrubbers within the stack, and we can only emit a certain amount at a certain time, and that's governed by the EPA. I don't know how much more you want to get into it.
Could you
In detail?
Could you describe how a scrubber works generically? Don't get too detailed. We're not scientists here.
I mean, a scrubber basically is a chemical that the fumes will go through as the rendering facility happens, or rendering process happens. It goes through a ammonia to take out the smell of the rendering burning, and basically you'll have more of a ammonia smell than a burning of flesh or bones or anything like that. So you go through multiple scrubbers in the stack to get emitted into air. And the height of that will be dictated, and what can be emitted will be dictated by the EPA. And we'll meet those standards.
Does that answer your question?
Well, I heard that they were going to heat it up to 1,500 degrees and it would burst the molecules.
That's a different process.
Oh, okay.
That's not the
Yeah,
process.
you can do that process, or you can do this scrubber process. The process of heating it up is not energy efficient, because when you heat it up to such a high extreme heat that basically you need to keep that burner going 24/7. So it's not energy efficient.
Thank you. Makes sense.
But our system will be exactly the same as Kuna. Is that correct, Tyler?
Yeah, that is correct.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask a follow-up question on that? Go ahead. You spoke to the EPA standards being the dictating force. Would that be similar to what the CUNA plant was built towards? Would that be similar standards or increased standards since the time of construction? Or what would the similarity be of the standards of the two plants?
Actually, the standard, the state of Idaho standards are a lot more stringent. So that's in favor of, so you're getting, there's actually, the state of Nebraska doesn't have as stringent record as what state of Idaho does. So you're actually going to be above and beyond what's needed for requirements. So we're not doing the bare minimum.
So just to make sure I understand that, so for this particular plant, the standards will be of a similar nature to Idaho that are going to exceed the standards in Nebraska, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Taylor's on the line?
Tyler.
Tyler, sorry, Tyler. Hey, maybe you can explain a little bit about the lagoons, the anaerobic digester lagoon, then the aeration basin, and then how that flows. Are both of those covered, Tyler? Do you know?
And that's to be determined. Depends on the size and stuff like that. On what we need to, there's not a need unless it's a certain size to cover.
Okay.
Right now, we're not covering anything.
So it would go into the anaerobic lagoon, then to the aeration basin, and then move into our lagoon to the north underground. Is that an accurate portrayal?
That is correct.
Okay.
I mean, if anyone, it would be the anaerobic lagoon.
I'm sorry, say that again, you cut out a little bit.
If any lagoon will be covered, it will be the anaerobic, just so you understand that.
Okay, it would be the anaerobic lagoon that would be
Yep.
covered, okay.
Yep.
Odor mitigation, is the cover for odor mitigation?
Or breakdown, really.
Really? Okay,
Whether all the above. I mean, there's multiple things that go into that cover.
okay. Okay, thank you.
In the anaerobic digester, Tyler, what do you do? Isn't there methane that's generated in that process? And if so, what do you do with that?
So there will be a blower building that will blow off some of the methane and discharge it into the atmosphere. Like a biogas flare you'll have to eliminate that. Then it goes into the aerobic and then goes pass through the process.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Briggs, I have one more question before you sit down. Sorry.
I thought your motion, you were done.
Mayor's prerogative. I just want to say thank you. We met with you and your team, as Mr. Jacobson described, in a private meeting. And in that meeting, my memory is that we spent a fair amount of time talking about odor. As, let's just be honest, that's probably one of our citizens' largest concerns. And it's also my largest concern. I certainly don't want to be the mayor that stunk up North Platte. Let's just be clear about that. Nor will I be. In that meeting, we had discussed the Idaho standards and in general, the technology that would be used at this plant here in North Platte. My memory is that you were in agreement with agreeing to those Idaho standards. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we're
Okay.
putting in the same equipment they have in Kuna, Idaho, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't misunderstand that and we're all on the same page.
Yeah, we expect to live up to that same standard as in Idaho, is correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment if I could.
Mr. Reeker, you have the floor. Should I turn my timer on, or are you good? I'm just joking.
I'll try
Go
not
ahead.
to exceed it.
Okay.
I moved to North Platte in 1979. Now I have to start over.
Moved to North Platte in 1979.
I read that once.
Okay.
I moved to North Platte in 1979, and I've witnessed the decline in good-paying jobs, which resulted in our people leaving town to find work, as well as limiting opportunities for our young people to live and work and raise a family here. When I was canvassing my ward prior to my election to the city council, people lamented the dearth of shopping in our town. I commented, before we can have more shopping, we need more people. And to get more people, we need good-paying jobs. Sustainable beef is probably the greatest opportunity in the history of North Platte to positively change the economic demographic of the community and enhance the shopping opportunities so often requested by our people. As most of you know, my support for TIF has been reserved for those projects which offer good, well-paid jobs, and this project certainly does that. North Platte is a regional hub which is sustained by agriculture, period. It is reasonable that this project utilizes our strong local agricultural capabilities, offering dramatic financial benefits to our region, which transcend the corporate boundaries of North Platte. According to Ernie Goss, this facility will boost the North Platte economy over the life of the TIF somewhere around $16 billion. I think Gary said 30 years is a billion seconds, so 30 times, I don't want to go there. But to say nothing of the increased income of the area farmers and ranchers and their ability to provide improved marketing opportunities for their beef. However, I really see this facility as a benefit to people. Men and women, fathers and mothers, husbands and wives, and families. I believe sustainable beef and the ancillary business opportunities will raise the income level of 50 to 60% of the people in our community. This will allow people who now rent their home to own their home, or for those who own their home to make the necessary repairs and updates which may have been neglected because of financial constraints, or to purchase a reliable automobile. In general, to improve their lot in life, which, from my perspective, is fantastic. Young people will recognize there are opportunities in North Platte to make a good living and raise a family. Existing businesses will see increased traffic and revenue, which means more staff and higher wages. New business opportunities will be created to support sustainable beef. New opportunities will arise to enhance the future rail park. Home builders will have a ready market for their homes, and with no need to seek local government financial assistance. This project is the most exciting thing to come to North Platte since Buffalo Bill provided meat to hungry men laying the tracks for the Union Pacific Railroad in the 1860s. I want to thank you, Sustainable Beef, for choosing North Platte to locate. You'll be a tremendous asset to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Calling the question on item number 14.
Just to clarify, so between the A and B, we are now voting on A.
That is correct.
Okay,
And if we,
yeah. Just so I understand, because
Yeah.
I'm speed reading while we're discussing, and it's making sure I got my ducks in a row. Okay. So B is essentially the same as our packet, correct?
That is correct, which was the root of the misunderstanding.
Right.
Okay,
So
so
A would be what's struck out in our packet.
that is correct.
Correct. Okay, so we are now voting on what A is.
Correct.
Does anybody want to make a motion to amend
A
to B?
is I already called the question.
Oh, okay.
So you can make a comment. I called the question, though. You have to vote on me calling the question. But if you want to make a comment, go ahead.
I just have a question, I guess. So a yes vote passes this, a no vote, and we could come back and address B? Or is B off the board now? I mean, I guess I don't know where we're at.
B is off the board.
So it's A or nothing. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, but I'm calling the question. So. Am
I
I
think you
correct?
should speak to the procedure and make sure that what we're doing is correct.
So why do we get this?
Okay, the attorney has advised me that I can withdraw the calling of the question. So for the sake of clarification, I will do that. The motion in front of us is the motion made by Mr. Lucas, which is A, which is the item that was originally put through the CRA and the Planning Commission, and the item filed in the city clerk's office, okay? That is technically the only item that we have considered tonight, so far, okay? I gave you a copy of B for the sake of clarity and transparency, to say there was a misunderstanding, and so you could easily see the differences. That's why you have B in front of you.
Oh,
Okay.
so we're not voting on B.
We're not voting on B. So,
But if I'm understanding correctly, we could motion to amend A.
at this point, you could, yes. But then we would have to have, oops, we'd have to not hit our microphones, but we would have to decide whether that amendment is resolved, and then, as we would with any other amendment.
I'm going to move that we adopt Resolution 2021 as presented in the council materials, which does have the altered language as presented in letter B for and approval for the City of North Platte redevelopment plan for Sustainable Beef LLC redevelopment project and approval of related actions.
And I'll second.
Amend our current motion.
Didn't I?
That's what he did.
Oh, okay.
I thought I did that.
So you are proposing an amendment
An
to
amendment to A,
use
to use the language that's in B.
the language that's in B,
Correct.
in paragraph.
I think it's D3. Are you talking about amending the plan or the?
We're talking about the resolution.
Okay, the resolution would be number 2.
Okay. Just want to be specific. Okay, we have a motion by Reeker and a second by Tryon to use the language in B rather than A.
Yes.
Any further questions, discussion on that? Mr. Lucas, go ahead.
The reason that I motioned with the filed resolution earlier is that the redevelopment plan has been available to the public. It's gone through the Planning Commission process, public hearing, and it's gone through the CRA. The CRA is an authority similar to the Housing Authority. It's not necessarily it's not just a recommending body such as like the Quality Growth Fund committee is. And so in my opinion, it's a little bit foolish to mess with what I think is a quality redevelopment plan that was passed by the Planning Commission, CRA, and then filed with the city clerk and has been available to our citizens. If the concern out there is that it notches things up on ordinances related to odor, which I'm speculating that, I'm hoping maybe you guys will comment on that. Any ordinances, my understanding, would need to be passed by this council. Is that correct, Mr. Waite?
It is.
Okay. So, to me, that's the real decision point on whether we're going to enhance ordinances of that nature in this community, that will be coming before this council and so to try to loosen that up or potentially loosen that up if that's the goal in a slight alteration to the redevelopment plan, I think would be a foolish mistake that I'm not in favor of. However, I do support the overall project as I stated earlier.
Mr. Mayor, we currently don't have, so it's my understanding, we currently do not have a odor ordinance. So I'm not sure how we could put one in here if we don't currently have one. If they wanted to put future or existing city ordinances complying with existing ones, that would be fine. But my objection is we don't have one on the books now.
The term is odor ordinances, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So if one were to exist, then based on that language, the beef plant would have to comply with it.
Right, but they would have to comply with all city ordinances. I'm not sure why this particular one is outlined, right? All ordinances?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Mr. Voles, did you have something?
I'm just,
You gestured, so.
yeah, I did. In here, what it currently says right now, odor control ordinances adopted. So, future ordinances.
It doesn't say.
Mr. Mayor, could I address Mr. Lucas's
Sir, go
comment?
ahead. Yep.
I'm not sure why this is in here, Ty. To my knowledge, this type of language has never been in one of our redevelopment plans before. And I'm not sure why we should be telling an organization that they have to comply with the law when everybody knows that they have to comply with the law. I don't understand the motivation for putting that language in here. And quite frankly, if I was in a position of wanting to come to town and establish a business, I'd be very reluctant to agree to something that I don't even know which may be implemented. And I understand that hopefully the council in its prudence is not going to implement any ordinance that's going to put them out of business. But right now, these people have no idea what that ordinance may be, and they're going to be signing on to an ordinance that has not been crafted. And so my concern is, I still am puzzled as to why this language is even in here. This is the first time, from what I understand, that this has ever been in one of our plans. And I don't understand the motivation for that.
I think I can say something towards the motivation. What we're trying to do here is help Sustainable Beef as much as possible with their investment process. We want to make sure, to the degree that we can, that they are successful. We do not want any of their capital potential investors to be surprised by something down the road. And having it setting in these documents, which will be reviewed by potential investors, am I correct, Mr. Riggs? Makes it obvious that we are concerned and we plan to address odor issues. That's why in the contract there will be specifications relating, calling out the same requirements that we saw in the Idaho plant. We're trying to help here. Also, let me just logically state, and certainly any of the attorneys in the room, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the council passes the ordinance, You then have to comply. You don't get to say, I started my business last year, therefore I don't have to, the ordinance doesn't mean anything to me. So all we're doing is putting in a contract a clarifying measure to try to help out the financial situation here. It's obvious that sustainable beef will have to comply with any ordinance that this council passes in the future. There is no doubt about that.
Am I understanding correctly too then, Mr. Mayor, that when this TIF plan comes to its conclusion, that language will die with the plan?
Because it is a contract, that is correct, yes. But any ordinance that the council may have passed will survive.
Right.
Mr. Vols?
And again, I've truly taken to heart what Ty said, that this has gone through the public planning process on the initial motion that Ty made. It went through CRA, it went through planning, and now it is to us. And for us to change this at this point, when it's been a level playing field, I don't think gives a good perception. So that is why I'm in favor of the initial amendment that Ty made and would not like to adopt the change of amendment.
Mr. Mayor, I'll withdraw my motion, if I can do that.
Mr. Reeker, let the record show your motion is withdrawn.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, now I'm calling the question. Just for clarity, we're back to the original document.
I'm not sure I understand what the
He wants a sustainable beef or not?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now that Mr. Carmen is on board, we're calling the question. Please vote. Item number 14 is passed. Thank you, everyone. Today is the first step in a great many things for our community. Yes, there will be some challenges, but we will meet them by sticking together. We will not meet them by being divisive and dividing ourselves. You will see me and every person sitting at this council chamber, or excuse me, table, pushing to work together to make our community successful. Now let's get together and make it happen. Thank you for being here. Item number 15, approve claims.
Move to approve the claims.
Second.
Motion Nisley, second Garrick, approving the claims, calling the question, please vote. Mr. Carmen, you need to vote, please. Claims are paid.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion to adjourn and a second from Nisley to Garrick, calling the question on adjournment. Garrick.
Brad.
She's not going to let us vote till she knows.
A hand vote, because she turned the computer on.
Okay. All in favor of adjourning, raise your right hand. Hey, raise your right hand to adjourn. Raise your right hand. Amen. Let the record show it was unanimous.
Well, thank you, Donna.
Oh, we're good.
You know, I understand. I think that was the right thing to do. Let's get it done.
Thank you. I know.
You know what I found out in practice a lot? Sometimes if stuff gets thrown in that makes no sense.
Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Now I'm gonna get rid of